Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at mortgages. A mortgage is a type of amortization payment, and that just means you pay the same amount every pay period. So something like your mortgage or your rent or your car payment versus something like your electric bill, which changes from month to month. We have the following table that we're going to use, and just some things to note. It's a monthly mortgage table, so it's your monthly payment, and it's per $1,000 of amount borrowed. We have the rate, and then we have the common years that you have a mortgage for, 20 years, 25 years, and 30 years. So if the information you're given, the interest rate and the number of years, is on this table, then we want to use it because it's going to be a lot easier. We'll see towards the end what happens if we're looking at a rate of 5% or 23 years or 35 years, something that's not on the table. You want to make sure you have this table in front of you. So if you have it printed out from the book, have that in front of you. Or if not, maybe just take a picture of the screen so that you see these numbers that I'm going to use. So for our first example, we want to find three things. We want to find the monthly payment, the total payment, and the amount of interest paid for each type of loan. So the first loan is you're borrowing $130,000 at 8% for 25 years. So to find the monthly payment, we go to our table and we look at 8%, 25 years. And on that table, we see $7.72. So that is the number that we're interested in. And remember that that number is per $1,000 of amount borrowed. Per means a ratio or a rate. It means division. So here is the per $1,000. And then of amount borrowed. Remember, of means multiplication. So of multiplication, the amount borrowed. The really nice thing about things that are per $1,000 is that the 1,000 and the last three zeros cancel each other out. So this is the same as just doing 7.72 times the number of thousands, the 130. This gives us $1,003.60. So remember, that's per month. And then the next thing we're going to look at is the total payment. So the total payment, we know that we have $1,003.60 every month for 25 years. So to find the yearly payment, I would multiply this number by 12. That's how much you would pay in a year, and then we're paying it for 25 years. So we take that $1,003.60, we multiply it by 12 to get the yearly rate, and then we multiply it by 25 because we're paying it for 25 years. That will give us $301,080. To find the interest, we just take what we paid, subtract what we borrowed, and what we're left with is the interest. So we paid $171,080 in interest. Mortgages are not known for being very nice towards people who borrow money, so you end up paying a lot in interest. Usually it's more in interest than what you actually borrowed. So when you're taking out a mortgage, you want to make really sure that you can A, get a really good interest rate, B, pay it off as soon as possible. You'll pay a lot less if you have a 25-year loan than if you have a 30-year loan. And C, you want to put as big of a down payment down as possible. Whatever you put down as a down payment, you're not paying interest in because you're not borrowing that amount. Let's try another one. So we're borrowing $250,000 at 10% for 30 years. 10% is not a very good interest rate, and 30 years is a long time. So this is probably going to be a lot. But again, we first want to look at our table. We want to look at 10%, 30 years. And if we do that, we should hopefully see $8.78. And then we're going to take that number and multiply it by, again, the number of thousands because they end up canceling. So just 8.78 times the 250 of the 1,000. That gives us a monthly payment of $21.95. If we want to find the total payment, we're going to take that number, again, multiply by 12 to find the yearly rate, and then we're going to multiply by 30 because it's a 30-year loan. So $21.95 times 12 times 30 gives us $790,200. To find the interest, again, we take what we paid and we subtract what we borrowed. So we paid $540,200 in interest alone. That's more than double the amount that we actually borrowed. Let's try another one. We're borrowing $100,000 at 7% for 20 years. So to find the monthly payment, we go to 7%, 20 years, and we should see $7.76, which we will then multiply by the 100. That just moves the decimal over twice, so we have a monthly payment of $776. To find the total payment, again, we'll multiply it by 12 and then multiply it by 20. So 776 times 12 times 20 gives us $186,240. The interest, $86,240. So that's not too bad. It's less than the amount we borrowed. So that's pretty good. 7% is a fairly decent percentage, and 20 years isn't that long for a mortgage. As our next example, we're going to borrow $100,000 at 5% for 20 years. So the only difference is I've gone from 7% to 5%. However, it's a very big difference because this is not on the table. Because it's not on the table, we need to use a formula for it. It's a kind of long formula, and you need to be really, really careful about how you enter it into your calculator. So if you have a calculator, I really suggest taking it out right now and going along with the examples in your calculator so that you know how to do it come the test time. One really important thing is that you cannot round until the very, very end when you realize that dollars have 2 decimals. So there's absolutely no rounding in the middle. You want to make use of the answer button if you have it. And if you don't have an answer button, it's usually located in the bottom right of your calculator. If you don't have it, I'll tell you how to get around it. So here's the formula. R equals A divided by 1 minus 1 plus I to the negative n over I. R is the monthly payment. It's R because it's the repeated payment, and you can actually do this if it wasn't monthly. These 12s that you see later on would just change, but we're always going to be doing monthly. So R is the monthly payment. A is the amount borrowed. I is the interest rate as a decimal divided by 12. And N is 12 times the number of years. And those 12s is again because it's monthly, and there are 12 months in a year. So for part D, remember this was borrowing $100,000 at 5% for 20 years. 1 plus I, because we have to do order of operations, so that's the first thing that's in the parentheses, is 1 plus 0.05 divided by 12. If you plug that into your calculator, you should see something that looks like this, but just make sure that you don't clear the calculator out. You want to keep this entire decimal. The next thing we do is exponent, so we raise it to the negative n. So again, it doesn't matter if you have the answer button or not, just hit whatever the button is you need for the power. It's usually either a caret like that, or x to the y, or y to the x. So whichever one of those you have that means exponent, you want to hit that. And then negative 240 in this case. Remember, n is 12 times the years. The years was 20, so 12 times 20 is 240. You also have to make sure you know how to plug in negative numbers into your calculator. Some calculators you hit the negative sign and then the 240. Some calculators you hit the 240 and then the negative. So play around with it and make sure you know how to use your calculator. But once you hit it, you should get a roughly 0.3686445289, depending on how many decimals your calculator shows. Again, do not clear it out. Don't write down 0.369 and call it a day. You need that entire decimal. The next part is 1 minus your answer. So if you do have an answer button, just hit 1 minus answer. If you don't, you can leave the number, this number, in your calculator, hit -1, and then either ignore the negative, remember that it's not negative, or multiply by -1. You should get 0.631355471, again, depending on how many decimals your calculator shows. The next thing is the dividing by I. So you're going to divide by, and then it's very, very important that you put parentheses here. Remember, I is 0.05 divided by 12. make sure you have parentheses. If you don't have parentheses, it's going to divide by 0.05 and then divide by 12. But remember, when you divide by a fraction, you're actually going to end up multiplying by 12. So just be really careful there. And you should get 151.5253131. Something to remember, which will help you to realize if you're on the right track or not, is that at this step, it is almost always 100 and something. It might be 98 point something, it might be 207, but it's usually in the hundreds. So if you're getting 32 or 650, you want to double check that and try starting from the beginning again. It's almost always 100 and something. The last step is to take your A, which again in our case is 100,000, and divide it by answer. So again, if you have the answer button, then you want to just hit in 100,000 divided by answer button. If you do not have the answer button, you're going to take your 151 point whatever, divide it by 100,000. So take that whole number, divide it by the 100,000, and then you're going to hit the reciprocal button. The reciprocal button looks like either 1 over x or x to the negative 1. So this will flip it. But remember, only do this if you do not have the answer button. If you do, then just hit 100,000 divided by answer. You should get $659.96 after rounding to the nearest hundredth, because again, dollars have 2 decimals. Okay, so if you didn't get that, try it again from the beginning. Again, make really sure that you use the answer button when you can, and also the parentheses at this point. That's probably the biggest mistake that I see people doing. So let's try another example. You're going to borrow $1 million at 3% for 10 years. Neither 3% nor 10 years is on the table, so we can't use it. So again, we're going to start with the same thing because the order of operations doesn't change. We're going to do 1 plus I, which is 1 plus 0.03 divided by 12. You should get 1.0025. Nothing else comes after that. The next thing we do is we raise it to the negative n. Remember, n is 12 times the years. So 12 times 10 is 120. So again, it's the 1.0025 to the negative 120. And you should be getting roughly 0.74 and then some more digits. The next thing we're going to do is 1 minus the answer. Again, if you do not have the answer button, then just do it backwards. Do that number minus 1 and then get rid of the negative. The next step is to divide by I. Now, if you notice, I can either write I as 0.03 over 12 or as just 0.0025. Since that decimal ended, there's nothing after the 5, I can just use 0.0025 because that is exactly 0.03 over 12. If the decimal kept going, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 6, 8, 2, blah, 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 I'd have to use the entire fraction like we did last time. But this one does end. It's very nice. It's rational. So I can leave it like that. And I should be getting 103.5617531. Again, 100 and something. So I know I'm on the right track. The last step is to take my A and divide by it. So 1 million divided by answer. Or, again, if you don't have the answer button, then just take your 103.56, that whole number, divide it by 1 million, and then hit the reciprocal button. You should be getting $9,656.07. It is a very large amount. You're taking it at only 3% for 10 years. So you're going to pay that $1 million back pretty quickly. So read through the book, try out the problems, especially these ones where they're not on the table, and let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.